California. Remember, she was the lady who assumed the seat in time and won in her own right several times from her late husband, of course, you remember, Sonny Bono. Congresswoman, very good to have you. Thanks for coming.
Thanks, Neil. It's great to be here.
Well, all Republicans in lockstep against this, all 178 of you. Is that likely to be the theme in these next two votes, Congresswoman?
Oh, absolutely. I think the Republican Party is very united on this. I think we've heard very loudly and clearly that the American people reject this bill. I think we're feeling good about the way we've presented our arguments. I think we're frustrated because I think all of the rigmarole that you just spelled out before I came on, Neil, talking about reconciliation and the Senate bill and the House bill, it's still the American people reject it all. They see backroom deals. They see deals being cut probably up until a couple of hours ago, and they're frustrated. They reject it.
So what do you think happened, Congresswoman? Because I agree, they must see the same numbers, the poll numbers, the same rallies, the same protests. Do they think that the American people don't know, don't appreciate the good stuff in this? I mean, that's kind of what I've heard from some of the leading Democrats. And they're going to roll the dice and say, unlike 93, 94, as I've raised with other guests, we're going to have a vote to stand on, furthermore, a victorious vote to stand on, and we could show them the wonderful things they have that Republicans are trying to stop. What do you think it is?
Well, first of all, I think what you just said is a mouthful. It's going to be our job to highlight a lot of these deals. I think it's going to take days, weeks, months, and perhaps years to actually find out all of the deals that were cut to get this to be passed later this evening.
But can that be done in time? I'm sorry, Congressman, but can that be done in time for the November elections, of which we're up to now, we're thought to be a given landslide for Republicans, maybe even a House and or Senate changer? What do you think?
Well, I think that's a great question, and I think we're going to obviously have to scramble between now and November, but continue, from that point forward, identifying these deals that were cut. But the American people, they understand that what this is that it is a takeover of their freedom and of their liberties, their health care as they know it. The doctor-patient relationship is no longer sanctified the way it was in the past, and I think that they know it. Yes, I believe the Democrats are counting on a buffer zone here between now and November where we all know the unintended consequences of any of these bills. Lord only knows what's going to happen in the unintended consequences of these bills. And yes, they're gambling. The Democrats are gambling between now and November. None of those will come out. But it's going to be our job to highlight them. And I think the American people are going to continue to reject the leadership that's coming out of Speaker Pelosi and Harry Reid and this White House.
You know, you've been there a while now, Congresswoman, and by all mentions doing yeoman's work. And I'm wondering now how work gets done in the future. If there You always hear this description of a poisoned well in that House well, and that it's going to be hard moving forward because a lot of people are bitter, a lot of people are angry, a lot of Republicans feel shut out, a lot of Democrats feel that you guys are nothing but the party you know, and it got pretty personal, it got pretty vitriolic. I mean, what happens?
Well, you're right. I was thinking this very same thing earlier today. I don't know how we move forward in any bipartisan manner. I think there's no trust left. I don't believe that we can take the other side for their word on many things. And I think the American people are beginning to think there's an agenda much bigger than any of these issues that is about the increase and the growing the size of government, that ultimately that's what this is all about. I don't know how we're going to get back to any bipartisanship. It's very sad. And I just want to tell a little story that early on when we started down the health care debate, I asked one of my colleagues if he would be willing to work across the party aisle with me, he being a Democrat. And his exact words were, are you kidding? If Speaker Pelosi knew that I was talking to you, she would kill me. So it's on both sides right now. It's a lot of rancor, very, very bitter divide. Yeah.
By the way, Nancy Pelosi mentioned her. There was this story, and I don't even know, Congresswoman, what's true or not, but where she pinned a male colleague to the wall to force a vote change. So I'm thinking to myself, Barbarella, and I'm thinking, what happened? Or did it happen? Or is it now urban legend? What?
I honestly don't know. I really don't know. I haven't even heard of that. So I can't speak to it.
Okay.
But, sorry I can't, glorify your urban legend.
You're too classy to relay dirt like that. That's all right. But let me go to another question that's just a tad less tacky, and that is, as far as the House leadership goes and the way they structure bills going forward and measures going forward, many of your colleagues, Congressman, you yourself have said, they've been pretty fast and loose with the rules, or certainly their interpretation of the rules. So that joint endeavors or jointly sponsored legislation could be endangered, certainly in the remainder of this Congress. Is that true?
Well, it is true because of what you've seen happen over these past few months is that there's no real honest attempt at bipartisanship unless they need it for their own purposes. There's no attempt, and I don't believe that the good faith is there or the relationships are there where members across the aisle are going to go to one another and say, hey, will you help me with this? You know, I think there will always be some bills and smaller bills, and I know that I always try to seek out a Democrat to be a co-sponsor with my bills. I just think it increases the likelihood of success by 2 if you have somebody on the other side of the aisle helping you. But I just don't see it happening, and this has been so brutal. And the divide has just been so fierce, and people are feeling it on the floor. You can just sense a real tension between members that is not going to bode well for bipartisanship in the future.
Finally, Congresswoman, the National Organization of Women is not happy with the president's, I guess, promise of an executive order to make sure that no federal monies go toward funding abortion. And that was, of course, crucial, as you know, ma'am, to win over Bart Stupak of Michigan. What do you think of that? Well, and is there hell to pay for Democrats in crafting these deals with their core, usually constituent groups?
Well, look, I don't believe that now is really going to be mad at the Democrats for a moment. You know they're a Democrat organization, and they're going to be there. This is window dressing. But a lot of these deals, we're going to have to see how they unfold, and we're going to have to see how many of them really happen and if they truthfully are upheld. Look at President Obama promised to close Guantanamo Bay by executive order. He hasn't done that yet. Yet today, I guess he told Bart Stupak that he would put in do an executive order on the pro-life language. I don't know if I would trust that, but I guess he's going to.
Congresswoman, thank you so much. On a busy night, we appreciate your taking the time.
Thank you.
All right.